TakeaSide, sports talk show that lets you, the viewer, choose our winners. As always, get on Sided.co and the Sided Debates app for your chance to climb up that leaderboard and take home a $25 Amazon gift card. Shout out to last week's winner, Christian Ramirez, for standing atop the Sided leaderboard and taking home a $25 Amazon gift card. It's election day. Before we talk politics, we have a lot to talk about in the world of sports. With the Minnesota Vikings' upset win over the Green Bay Packers on Sunday and the Chicago Bears' devastating overtime loss to the New Orleans Saints, there's a tough battle for the NFC North crown. The Packers lead the division at 5-2, with the Bears right behind them at 5-3. I'm joined by Nick Sola and Jack McGarr by Zoom to debate who will win the NFC North this year.
They have the experience. They have, just the winning experience in the playoffs, but more importantly, they have Aaron Rodgers, who is just kind of having an MVP caliber year. He's at like 20 touchdowns to 2 picks right now. Really good completion percentage. I would say he's on a mission this year. They have Aaron Jones coming back soon. They have Jamal Williams behind him, also a beast. And I think the Bears are just a little shaken up offensively right now. They just need, once they get a little more consistently offensively, is when I can see them as a contender. But right now, I got to go with the Packers.
I gotta take the Bears on this one. I think when you look at the Packers, there are a little too many deficiencies when it comes to injuries. I think a lot of their players, especially their star players like Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, even I think Aaron Rodgers a little bit sometimes can kind of get shaken up here and there. But, I mean, you saw last week against the Vikings, they didn't have Aaron Jones, and their offense looked like dumbfounded. I mean, Devontae Adams still came up with 2 touchdowns, and that's great, but you can't rely on one player or else he's going to get double-teamed every time down. I think the Bears, however, I know their offense is very, very incompetent right now every time they take the field, but I think what will happen eventually is Trubisky will get put back in because I think we'll realize Foles doesn't really have the arm that can make those deep plays down the field. And I think Trubisky has shown time and time again that he can actually make those big plays. So I think once Trubisky gets back in and I think the offense starts getting running, I think we'll develop a run game. And I think the Bears will eventually get their offense clicking. And they've got a top-tier defense already. And I think that really can stand out to win the NFC North. And I mean, they're already standing at 5-3 even with the struggles they've had on offense. So I think if they can get their offense rolling, I think there's no reason why they can't win the NFC North at this point.
Absolutely. Their defense is definitely elite, one of the best. That's the reason where they are where they're at. It'll be interesting. They have another matchup, I believe, not this week, but the week after. It might be a primetime game, actually. Could be kind of a decider. I just think you kind of hit on it with the QB situation. They seem to be in the Nick Foles boat still, but that could change at any time, as to where with Green Bay, you just have an absolute assassin with Aaron Rodgers, and injuries are a little bit of an issue right now, but I think they are stacked enough. Like I said, they have Jamal Williams behind Aaron Jones, who has been putting up great numbers while he's been out. They have, obviously Devontae Adams behind him. They have guys like Lazard that Rodgers really likes. And they have a defense that is probably among one of the better Packers defenses. They've never been a great defensive team, but they certainly can hold their own. And I just think when it comes down to, crunch time and who needs to win the game, you got to give it to Aaron Rodgers. That's ultimately what's gonna make or break for them, I think. But the biggest matchup will be the Packers-Bears rematch that will be happening in a couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
I agree. I think when we see that game, I think it'll be truly clear to see who's going to take the NFC North, depending on who wins that game, or even if it's a close matchup, I think it'll still tell who's going to win the division. But like you said, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, if you've got Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, even Lazard, like you said. But the problem is he hasn't had all 3 of those guys on the field at the same time really throughout the season. I mean, Lazard's been on IR. Devontae Adams has missed a couple games already in the season with injury. Aaron Jones has missed, I think, 2 games now with a calf injury. And I mean, that'll probably continue throughout the season. So I think really when you can't have with all three of those guys like that we just mentioned, with Aaron Rodgers on the field, that offense is really scary. They were putting up like 40 something points every game when they had everyone in there. But the fact of the matter is you're not going to have everyone here because they're all suffering injuries throughout the season. So I think when you have those key injuries to your key players, I think that really scares your offense and that changes your game plan every time you take the field. But I think with the Bears, Matt Nagy will have to make a change in quarterback soon because I don't think Nick Foles will keep winning games. We have a big matchup against the Titans next week, or this upcoming week. And I think if the offense doesn't do anything crazy, I think there might have to be a change with Trubisky. I remember we played the Bears played the Rams and they completed their first play of 40 yards or more passing. And that's a very scary stat that we were the only team that didn't have a play like that yet. So I think if the offense doesn't start rolling, that Trubisky will have to be put in.
Yeah, I think a QB switch up is definitely under consideration. I would also, maybe not mid-season, but in the off-season, they may think about, I think they're fine. They should be fine with Matt Nagy and like him as a head coach. I don't know if necessarily he should be running the whole offense per se. I think they need someone else that can kind of help him out there. Like Andy Reid, he'll take over the offense, but he's not doing everything. Kind of, he needs someone else. I think Matt Nagy kind of needs someone else that can help guide on offense, and he can do more of a whole game overview kind of thing. But I think that's the big thing is just they're pondering on offense, whether it's QB play or play calling. It's tough there, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
With that being said, make sure to go vote it on sided.co for your favorite, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. Last week, the Los Angeles Dodgers took home their 7th World Series title and their first since 1988 with a 6-game series win over the Tampa Bay Rays. However, the win didn't come without controversy. In the decisive Game 6 matchup, Dodgers third baseman Justin Turner was removed from the game during the 8th inning after testing positive for COVID-19. Not long after his positive test, Turner was seen celebrating with teammates on the field in violation of MLB protocols. Many are calling for Turner to be suspended or fined, while others say his actions should go without punishment. I'm joined by Marina Saver and Jerome Sweeney to hear their side on whether or not the MLB should punish Justin Turner and the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, I do think that they are going to punish him, and it doesn't matter kind of what my opinion is on whether they should or not, almost because they kind of have to, right? I mean, he did violate protocols and, things like that. But the reason why I feel the need to defend him is because, first of all, when he is punished, it's going to be 10 times worse than any Astros player got for cheating and, completely ruining the integrity of the game, which this did not do. And also, I try and put myself in the shoes of Turner and Turner's family. And like, if it were one of my brothers who play baseball, I would want them to be able to celebrate that World Series win. You don't know if you're going to get it again. He was in the locker room with his teammates, and he was in the dugout with them for 2/3 of the game. They couldn't get a conclusive result on his test, and they were retesting him, and they let him play in the game without knowing if he was positive or not. He'd already been there. He'd already been in the dugout. He'd already been interacting with people. So he should be able to celebrate. It was not good that he was taking his mask off for pictures, especially sitting next to Dave Roberts, who is a cancer survivor. That is just really not a good judgment call on his part. But I I feel bad for him, and I feel the need to defend him. Again, they're going to punish him. I know that they will, but it's understandable. I understand why he did what he did, and I feel for him.
So you gotta look at it from the perspective of MLB.
Right.
If there's a Game 7 tomorrow, is the Game 7 going to be played? I think no, because positive tests on a team, that's a mandatory quarantine. So in an alternate world, we don't have a Game 7, or if the Rays were to come back and win Game 6, I don't think there would be a Game 7 for another week, and that honestly could potentially change the way that the whole outcome of the World Series, how that ended up. But MLB created a bubble for their players, and I get it's hard to bubble a large group of people that big, unlike the MLB or unlike the NBA and NHL. So the way that their bubble worked, the hotels were interesting with the no families coming in. Is supposed to be very strict, but yet the hotels had other guests staying at the hotels. So you couldn't be in contact with your family, but you could run into a random person in the hallway and get coronavirus from them. So I think it's more about the fault of MLB as a whole and how they handled the pandemic rather than just being Justin Turner, because Justin Turner tested positive once and then he was allowed to play in the game, and then he had to test positive twice to be taken out of the game. So if they were letting Justin Turner even play the game with one positive test, even though it wasn't verified, that's absolutely horrendous to be letting into the game, because now everyone on the field was exposed to COVID. Everyone in the front office, everyone that was on the celebration, on the Rays and on the Dodgers is now exposed. Both teams are quarantining still. It caused a headache and a lot of problems for baseball. It was really bad press on the World Series that's now going to be overshadowed by coronavirus.
Right, because that first test result was inconclusive and they did let him play. And an interesting point that actually Trevor Bauer brought up on his Twitter, as he loves to do. He loves to rip on Rob Manfred on his Twitter. But he brought up a point that it seems that from the higher ups in the MLB's perspective, it did automatically go to blaming Turner for, refusing security when they tried to get him off the field and things like that, which he did do, and, he should take responsibility for that. But there was never any internal looking. It was never, okay, we created this bubble. Turner followed the rules that we know of. How did he still get sick? How did this happen? How did we let this happen? How did we get this player sick? Not that they got him sick, but how was it that the conditions were such that he did, and now lost out on the opportunity, or should have lost out on the opportunity, to celebrate his World Series victory. And Turner, and even Corey Seager, was spending his press time after being named the MVP, talking about how sorry he felt for Turner. This, of course, was before Turner had stepped onto the field. And I don't like the Dodgers, we know this, but I can appreciate Turner's story and the fact that he was released from the Mets. He really was told he wasn't going to go anywhere.
35.
He comes to the Dodgers, he comes to the Dodgers, he just flourishes and becomes an absolute staple to that team and a staple to Los Angeles. And he means so much to the fans, and they love him. He really is just sort of an iconic player for them. And he, of anyone, should have been out there celebrating that World Series. Again, what we're all doing is wearing masks, and we're staying socially distanced and things like that. So with the exception of that picture that he was taking with the team photo where he took his mask off, and then the pictures that he was taking with his wife where he took his mask off, which she would have gotten sick regardless.
She definitely has it.
He did have his mask on. He did appear to be, he was hugging people and stuff like that, but I don't know. It's like, if it works for us, why is he expected to follow harsher rules? I know he's positive, and I know it's just really messy. But again, they're going to punish him. I know they will, but I feel for him, and I just feel for him.
Onto the punishments. Like I said, he's for sure going to be punished more than any Astros player ever will be,
because that's how it works.
It's horrible, but in the times of a pandemic, it needs to happen. Going back, there wouldn't have been a Game 7 if he tests positive twice before the game. So if he takes his tests and we get those earlier, it's sad that the MLB is even in this situation. To whereas we have an inconclusive test and we're letting players that might have COVID be playing in an MLB game is horrendous, and it goes against everything that all the sports leagues developed for safety protocols for this pandemic.
Yeah, I agree. And, they are opening an investigation into the situation, so it's something that we'll have to keep watching just to see what happens. And when more details about that investigation come out, I'm sure we will be talking about it again. But that's all the time we have for this segment. We're going to throw it over to commercial, and we'll be right back.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Welcome back. As mentioned earlier, today is Election Day. With President Donald Trump running against former Vice President Joe Biden, we've seen numerous celebrities and public figures endorse their candidate for president. Given the current political climate and the varying policies of both candidates, we're asking Sided users how much celebrity endorsements play a role in your vote for president. I'm joined by Blake Sevenbergen to hear his side.
I think for me, coming into this election, celebrity endorsements aren't all that important in my vote and how I have voted this year, but I think they will play a big role in society. You know, the big race this year has been people just going back and forth at each other on social media and on the debates, and I think that celebrity endorsements from different celebrities will play a role in how people vote in this election.
Now, Blake, I know that you said that celebrity endorsements don't have a role in your personal vote, but you said it as a whole. So you mind talking a little bit more, how much of a role do you think celebrity endorsements will have in the outcome of this election?
I think there's so many things that are unclear going into today. You know, mail-in ballots coming in late, people voting at any time. I think the answers are going to be unclear, and that's why I think celebrities and how they will react and how they support their candidate will be important in what happens today. You know, different celebrities like LeBron James has come out and supported Joe Biden last night. I think that'll swing a few votes towards Joe Biden because of how prominent LeBron is in society. Similarly for Lil Wayne with Donald Trump. Lil Wayne is a very prominent figure in the music world, and I think that once people who really support him know where he is at as a person and who he supports, that votes will swing that way.
Now, obviously, with this election, it's pretty unusual. We have Donald Trump, who is a former reality show host. We have Joe Biden, who is a public figure, was former vice president. Do you think that the candidates being well known across the country and their public figure status, do you think that's going to have an impact on celebrity endorsements, on whether or not celebrity endorsements have an effect on this election?
I do think so. Both of these figures have been well known in the public eye for many, many years, whereas some of these celebrities that are coming in and voicing their opinions are younger than the candidates. You know, they haven't been around as long in the spotlight. And so I think the younger voting crowd that comes in and votes for the first time today will have a little bit of a bias based on who the people they follow support.
Now, I know with mail-in ballots and all of the controversy surrounding this year's election, people don't know if we're going to have an answer on who wins this election today. Blake, do you have a prediction for who wins the election, and when do you think we'll know by?
I think personally Donald Trump will win the state majority, but the states that he will win will be the small Midwestern states that don't have a ton of impact in the Electoral College. And then I think Joe Biden will win states like California and New York that have a huge Electoral College vote. And that's why I think Joe Biden will not handily, but closely win this presidential election. But I think it'll be unclear, and we won't know until at least Thursday who actually won.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Be sure to follow KUJH for all your election coverage. As always, get on Sided.co and the Sided Debates app to put up your arguments and climb up that leaderboard. For more TakeaSide content, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TakeaSideKU. And for all of us here at TakeaSide, I'm Jacob Polachek. Thank you for joining us.